I was very flattered to be invited here by Pierre and the Microsoft team. I hope that you'll find helpful what I have to say. I'll share with you some of my observations, some of my experience running a hosting and a cloud service provider. And hopefully at the end we'll have time for some Q&A. But again, I don't pretend to have all of the answers, but hopefully some of that stuff is going to be useful for you guys. So I'm simply going to talk about 5 topics. My first slide is just a few points on SherWeb, in case some of you may not be that familiar with our company. The second point, or second topic, I'll share with you a little bit of our history and what brought us to become a CSP provider and what brought us to become a major Microsoft partner. The third topic I'm going to touch is one that was partly already covered in previous conversations or previous presentations, but I want to share some of my thoughts on differentiation, which I hope will be useful for the group here. Then I want to talk about marketing as a topic. And lastly, I want to talk about going all in as a company, which is potentially the most important point in order to have success, I believe, as a CSP provider. So very quickly, a few stats and a few facts on SherWeb. We're a born-in-the-cloud company that was founded in 1998 by myself and my brother. When we say born in the cloud, it is simply that we always sold our services online. We always had online services that we sold, so we consider ourselves a true born-in-the-cloud provider. We're now over 400 employees and growing. We are mostly based in North America. That is, over 80% of our customers and partners are based in North America, but over time, though, we were able to attract customers in at least over 100 countries worldwide. We currently have more than 45,000 customers and over 3,500 transacting active partners. So we have both a direct and indirect strategy. Over 75% of our total revenues are Microsoft-based. So by Microsoft-based, it can be anything from us simply reselling some Microsoft, selling some managed services on top of Microsoft technology, us building some IP on the Microsoft platform, but over 75% of our business is related to Microsoft. And lastly, we were honored by winning over the past 3 to 4 years, the Worldwide Hosting Partner of the Year award, and we were finalists for 2 of those in those 2 years, in those last 3 years also. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of SherWeb. So just so that we're clear, I didn't always get to hang out with Bill Gates. Okay? Initially, we started, my brother and I, as a very small, homegrown, actually in our basement, hosting company. And throughout our history, also an important point that makes our company a little bit different than other partners or companies out there, we never raised a penny of outside capital. So we started our business 100% from the ground up, 100% with sweat equity, really by working, by building, by being leading edge in everything that we do. And that's really how we've grown our company up until today. So like I said, a little bit of history, our company was founded in 1998. And when we founded the company, we were a normal, pure-play shared hosting company. So perhaps like some of you guys were in the past, or perhaps like some of you guys are today, for the first 7 years of our history, so from 1998 till 2005, we focused mostly on selling shared hosting, some dedicated servers. We resold some co-location, a few reseller packages here and there, some hosting plans built on Windows, some of them built on Linux. But for 7 years, we were what you could call an ordinary pure play web hosting company, and we sold mostly in our local market. Our local market for us is Quebec in Canada. For those of you that may not know, Canada is a bilingual country, and there's a portion of it that's 100% francophone. As you may have noticed, French is my first language, English is my second language. So we were focusing on that primary market, and that's what we've done for the first 7 years of our life. In 2005, we did two major changes. Number one is both my brother and I are pretty ambitious, and we had a flat company. We were less than a dozen employees for over 5 years. So we said, how can we grow the company? What kind of trends are out there where we can take SherWeb to the next step? So the first step that we did is we were lucky enough to be invited at a Microsoft conference, not unlike this one, in Toronto, where they talked about this whole new thing that was called the Service Provider License Agreement. And then we said, hey, this is a great idea where we're able to take advantage of the trend with mobility, syncing your calendar, syncing your email. That's something we take for granted. Back then, the BlackBerry was extremely popular, and smartphone was just coming out, but we were like, wow, okay, we can leverage this trend. And also, Microsoft Exchange, which is an email product, everybody uses email, was not multi-tenant yet. This was Microsoft coming out with the SPLA agreement, and we said, wow, okay, let's sign the SPLA agreement. We learned about HMC, and we said, let's get into this space. So that was our first big move. The second big move that we did that literally changed the history of our company in 2005 is that we became a company, a provider focused on marketing. We'll touch about that a little bit later, but we literally said, let's not only market our services within the Quebec local market, let's go online, let's brand our website in English, in French, and let's market our services at large, selling and going for volume. I'll go back into more details in future slides. So that's what we did in 2005. And from 2005 till approximately 2 or 3 years ago, we grew a lot, selling hosted Exchange, hosted SharePoint, hosted Link, and we were 100% SPLA based. Business was good. Business was growing. Again, initially we were much more focused on the direct market, and then in the last few years we grew also our channel, but we were 100% SPLA based. Then, as some of you know, Microsoft launched its public cloud. BPOS initially wasn't too much of a threat, but Microsoft, like they are, learns very quickly. And then they launched Office 365. And the relationship, to be 100% transparent, became a little bit uncomfortable. We have this great partner, but that sometimes is competing against us. And we didn't know too much what to do because, we've been investing a lot in hosted Exchange, we've been investing a lot in all of these workloads, growing, selling our business, and then our top partner is becoming our number one competitor. So, we didn't know too much what to do. Then, thankfully, Microsoft, again, learned, I think, very quickly, and finally came out with the CSP program. And that was another turning point for SherWeb. So I would say that 2005, when we got into the SPLA world with hosted Exchange and all of our hosting business, was the first major turning point for us that literally changed the course of our history. And about 3 years ago, when we started evaluating CSP and did our decision to go all in with CSP, and I'll explain you why we made that decision, was the second turning point. And a lot of the growth that we've had recently was due to that decision. So why did we decide to go all in with CSP? This is 100% true. Each and every one of the reasons I'm putting on the PowerPoint presentation here, I took them from an internal deck that we had at SherWeb when I pitched to my executive team why we should go 100% with CSP and go all in. And for us, all in didn't necessarily mean to stop growing and investing in our SPLA and hosting business, but it meant leading with the CSP business. So going first with Office 365, with the public cloud offering, but when required, we always had our SPLA business. And over time, and I'll explain again a bit later, some good surprise came out of this. So this was mostly around Hosted Exchange and Office 365, but I do think that most of those reasons applies also to Azure and Dynamics 365. So first reason why we decide to go all in with CSP is pretty straightforward. CSP, as most of you probably know, allows you to build your own customers, allows you to support your own customers. And SherWeb's mission is to be a best-in-class cloud provider as a one-stop shop. So we want to be a one-stop shop of best-in-class cloud solutions, which Office 365 is. So in front of our customers, in front of our partners, we couldn't afford not to have Office 365 as a solution, and the CSP program allowed us to do that. So that was the first reason why we decided to go with the CSP. The second reason is that this is a huge wave. So this transformation that's currently happening in IT happens maximum, and I'm probably being generous, happens maximum once every 5 years. And a huge opportunity like that, maybe once in a lifetime, to be 100% honest with you. Microsoft Office, okay, I was reading articles recently on the 10-year anniversary of the iPhone, and basically they were looking, as part of the anniversary, at the most profitable products in the history of capitalism. And you had the iPhone, you had Coca-Cola, you had oil, and one of them was Microsoft Office. So why not, under this current climate, take your fair share of that opportunity? Why not surf the wave? So it was very clear for us that this was an opportunity with the CSP program to go after large volume. And also, what we thought we would do is email is only a small portion of the whole market opportunity. With Office 365, you've got email, you've got Microsoft Office, and we were well aware that Microsoft would invest continuously in the offering, building bigger and better SKUs. So more and more as the technology world would progress, we would be on this big boat that would cover all of the technology available. So this made a lot of sense for us. So that was the second reason why we decided to go all in with CSP. Thirdly, we figured, and that's a bet that we made, it wasn't that scientific, but we said if we go all in with CSP, we'll probably have a reduction in our churn. So Hosted Exchange has always been a very profitable business for us. Anything related to SPLA was. But, we had what I would consider a normal churn of around 10%. When you compare our churn of 10% for our SPLA business to what the telcos do, it's pretty good. To what some of our competitors that are public companies, so we have access to those numbers, it's pretty good. But we figured, hey, if we provide Office 365, our churn may be reduced because, number one, we won't lose any more customers directly to Office 365, and it's a more leading-edge product that's backed by a huge marketing engine. And that proved to be 100% right. Today, we have less than 5% churn on our CSP business. So if you remember the first presentation from today that Talal did, and one of his slides is 1 + 1 = 36. Well, if you're able to keep your customers for over 3 years, it pays a lot. So a reduction in your churn by more than half is has a huge value for a company like us. Then the other reason was, hey, in terms of margin percentage, hosted exchange, we were doing bigger margins, larger margins. Again, though, however, with Office 365, we figured the SKUs are more expensive. So in absolute dollars, over time, not only would we sell much more volume, we figured we're going to sell bigger SKUs, and the absolute dollars will probably compensate for the higher margin. And I'm pleased to announce that if we look today at our business, our average revenue per user went from $5 to now over $10, and the trend is continuing upward. And with everything that's coming out, think Power BI, think Skype for Business, think all of the features that are available with the E3 SKUs, everything that's coming out, this will only go much higher. Another thing is the world is changing. I don't know about you guys, but we definitely felt the pressure. And like I said, this was a very uncomfortable relationship. There are some big players with deep pockets out there. Think Amazon, think Google, think Microsoft, and then obviously there are some smaller guys, but still huge compared to most hosting providers like Salesforce, and then you even have the consumer clouds like Apple or Facebook. Microsoft, and I'm not just saying this because we are at a Microsoft conference, if I didn't believe it, I wouldn't say it, is the only one of those hyperscale companies that has a true partner strategy. Bill Gates said it when he was CEO, that was one of their top differentiators. It was reiterated by Steve Ballmer when he was a CEO, and that was reiterated again by Satya Nadella. Again, it took a while before I think they figured out, but I'd rather be with Microsoft and with a company that cares about partners and be in the CSP program than being with other cloud providers that have no partner program whatsoever.
Which you've met also, by the way.
Yeah, obviously we talk to them all the time. So in the 12 months following our all-in move, these are the net seats add that we added in terms of both Office 365 and Hosted Exchange. And this is the great surprise. Before going all in with CSP and Office 365, we were selling on average approximately 2,000 users per month. And over time, that went down just a little bit. Today, in terms of net seats add per month, we're still on average at over 1,000. And for the past 2 to 3 months, we've been at over 10,000 net seats add on Office 365. And the trend is continuing upward, and we believe that this is a huge opportunity that is only growing over the next few months, over the next few years.
10,000 from how many customers?
Very small customers. So customer segmentation, I knew you were going to ask that, is it grew a lot. So before we went all in with CSP, our average user per customer was around 5. It has grown to approximately 15, but as you've seen, we're a very SMB-focused company. This is what works with us. We've figured out over time that it's much easier to go after 1,000 customers that have 5 seats each than running a whole cycle trying to close 5,000 users that's going to take a year, 2 years, 3 years to close. This is our history. This is what we've learned. We sometimes, when we talk to clients, then there are enterprise clients, we will serve them opportunistically, okay? But we don't chase them. And we're definitely not going to waste our time if we feel that the sales cycle will take 2 to 3 years. So then we went to CSP, and basically, as you've seen, this has been very profitable for SherWeb as a company. Now my next topic is just a few thoughts on differentiation. This, I think, has been part of most presentations that you've seen today. It was part of Talal's presentation, Pierre's presentation. Everybody talks about differentiation. And what I want to say, basically, is that differentiation can sometimes be overwhelming and sometimes scary. People talk about, hey, you need to develop your own intellectual property. You need to, find your unique value proposition. You need to be super, you have to have this genius idea to make your place in the market, otherwise you're not going to survive. And if there's a message that I want to say today is that differentiation takes a lot of hard work. It's not something that's done overnight, but it doesn't have to be super complex and super complicated. You don't necessarily have to, go back home, meditate for 3 months and hope to arrive at a unique idea of IP that's going to revolutionize the world. Okay? So it doesn't have to be that scary. Us, how we attack differentiation is fairly simple. Again, simple does not mean it's not hard work, because to develop these capabilities takes some investment and it takes some time. But again, it's not complex. So us, as a company, our differentiators are the following. First of all, we differentiate through tech support, managed services. Everybody says that they do great service, that they do provide great managed services and great technical support. Truth of the matter is, it's not the case. A lot of service providers out there sometimes claim to do it, but have very, very sloppy service. We are extremely serious about measuring the Net Promoter Score. So we measure every ticket that's open for any type of migration. So we have a migration team that's 100% measured on the type of service they provide. We also have an onboarding team that's 100% focused. Every ticket, every customer they handle is measured. And the 24/7 support also. That's a great way to differentiate. The market is still not up there in terms of service. We differentiate through customer enablement. Once a customer is onboarded or a partner is onboarded, we run webinars to let them know about new capabilities. We provide training. This is a differentiator. Again, it takes discipline, it takes hard work, but it's not complex. We're a one-stop shop, so we don't provide only Microsoft services and Microsoft offerings. So we provide some Microsoft offerings, we have some homegrown offerings, and we have offerings from other technology vendors. This is a differentiator. I think in Pierre's presentation, it mentioned, or I've seen it in other Microsoft presentations, over 50%, I think a stats like 75% of businesses prefer to buy all of their cloud or IT services from one provider. So this is a good, fully valid differentiator. Control Panel Cloud Business Management Portal. Providing a good portal, and you can get that through different partners of Microsoft, or if you have the capabilities, you can develop yourself. That's a differentiator. User experience. At SherWeb, our motto is simplifying the cloud. Think of Apple. It's all about user experience. It's not complicated. It's hard to do. But just making the experience great and wowing your customers in itself is a differentiator. Other ideas. You can have an expertise in a specific workload. So, like it was mentioned before in previous presentations, in Azure, there's over 100 features, 100 SKUs. There's new technology coming out every day. Not every day, but every month at least. Pick one, hire people or train your people, and say, hey, I'm a specialist in one of those. I know that we're looking at specific things. We're looking at SQL on Linux. We're looking at big data and analytics. There's plenty of things in there where you can say, hey, I'm going to look at that specific technology and I'm going to become the expert in this. It's a way to differentiate. You can focus on gaps. VoIP. So you can, as an example, take Link, integrate it with SIP trunking from a telecom communication provider. So what you build around this is your IP. If there's compliance requirements that the out-of-the-box service doesn't meet, that can be one of your differentiators. You can become the Office 365 or a CSP provider that's ransomware proof, or that's the most reputable in terms of security. And another thing that's extremely important is, you heard it in previous conversations, build your company like a factory. Okay? What we call that, we talk about at SherWeb always productizing are services. Okay? We do not launch a service at SherWeb that's not productized. We are extremely fanatical about automating everything. If it can be automated, it needs to get automated. Again, it takes a long time. Initially, you're going to start with a few processes. You're going to put in methodology in place. After 6 months, this increase. After 1 year, but after a few years of hard work and discipline, this will be your IP. And it's not that easy to copy. Okay? Now, the line is blurred. Okay? I used to have debates internally with older executives that I had hired at SherWeb. They were telling, hey, Matthew, are we selling products or are we selling service here at SherWeb? I'm trying to think of my positioning and what are we selling? It's a combination of both. Today, the line is it's great. Okay, we're talking software as a service. It's a combination of both. Productize your service. So these are great ways to differentiate. My next topic is thoughts on marketing. So what we found at SherWeb is that the best ROI we could get was when we invested in marketing. So think of the previous presentation. I really liked how Charlie talked about finding the no's. So saying, hey, we have a funnel, we have a pipeline, we're going to call them, clean up, get rid of the weed, finding the no's, and then just focusing on the clients that we think will be able to close shortly. So that's a great way to do it, but you can do that through marketing. By focusing your marketing on clients and customers that you will have chances of closing shortly without wasting your time, having 10 meetings over the next 2 years and then getting to a no. Marketing can help you with that. So ROI-wise, we've always thought that was the best use of our money. When my VP of marketing typically comes to me and say, hey, Matthew, I need to hire a new person or I need a budget for this or that, I rarely say no. Website is king. This was mentioned before. Everything goes through the website. So you need to start building your brand through the website. It's, again, something that seems repetitive, but it's something that you need to invest continuously. It's something that I know we invest in continuously. Every time I log on to my website, I always find things that I don't think are top-notch. I continuously write emails to my marketing team to say, hey, look at this competitor, how are they doing things different? It's extremely important to differentiate through your website. And also, some of you that may have smaller companies, I know SherWeb, when we started, and we were an extremely small company, and I said in 2005, we decided to focus on marketing. Even if we were an extremely small company, we could compensate by investing on our website, building our About Us web page, building, announcing all of the clients that we have on our website, and so on and so forth. So never forget about the website. That's absolutely king. And then stay ahead of the curve in terms of new ways to do things with marketing. In our history, in 2005, when we got into the wholesale exchange software as a service space, what brought us the best ROI on top of our website was PPC. So for the first few months, for even over a year, PPC was the top way for us to get leads. We would manage our presentation, we would manage our campaigns, something that I would do with my internal team, spend countless hours, and PPC was where we get the best bang for our buck. After a while, our ROI and PPC went down. But then SEO was the new trend. So we found ways to develop strategies to be ranked number one on Google and Bing, but especially Google. And that was, that started paying a lot, okay? But then after a while, that, didn't pay so much. People were catching up. So then we got into display marketing. We got into retargeting. And today, content is king. So today, we continuously build content that's relevant for our market. And social marketing also is extremely important. What we find as a company, today that works extremely well is a combination of content marketing with social media marketing. Most of the customers and partners that we recruit, we actually do that find them on LinkedIn. And new trends that are coming that are going to hopefully make us leading edge is that everything that's related to predictive analytics applied to marketing, something that I think will be extremely important over the next 12 to 18 months. It's important to keep innovating and to stay ahead of the curve. When we think of marketing initiatives, that's also another thing I want to share with you. We always have 4 roles. And those 4 roles, if you're a smaller company, don't necessarily have to be a complete different person. Great, if you have the means to hire 4 person for any marketing campaign, great. But based on our experience, it's extremely important to have an owner, so someone that will think day in, day out about the strategy of a specific campaign. What's our positioning statement? What do we want to say? Who are we targeting? Is it SMB? Is it mid-market? What's the product? Is it the modern meeting? Are we talking about Office 365? Do we want to lead with a specific workload? A strategist. Then we have someone, because it's so important today, that will lead with content, who will be the owner of writing blogs, building an ebook. Again, doesn't have to be a full-time dedicated person. You can attribute that task to one of the salesperson, but it's extremely important to have an owner for all of our initiatives. Then we have someone that's a web designer, obviously that does all the creative stuff. And then we have someone that measures the ROI, that constantly compares things, does A/B testing, figures out what works well. And by the way, over time, as you figure out which campaign, which medium works well for you, that's IP that's very valuable.
What's the age range that you hire for these roles? Are they senior or junior?
No, it's. I don't think anyone in our, maybe one person is over 40 years old in our marketing team. So, it doesn't have to be super expensive people that have 40 years of experience. Oops, that's my best slide. Excuse me?
How many salespeople do you have?
We have about 30 people.
30 sales.
Yeah.
And the net ads that you do every year, what's the percentage of sales that come through salespeople versus?
We have over 50% of our sales that will have a contact with our salespeople. But that may be only a chat. That may be only, I'm not going to say quote because of what Charlie said, but that may be all the proposition that was sent. But yes, over 50 will have a contact, but we never visit them in person though. That's a very similarity with Perspicuity. Everything is done remotely. We have now certain very large partners that exceptionally we will meet once in a while in person, but the numbers that you've seen, since we're all in with CSP, all of that is done 100% remotely.
When you say sales, you do proactive, or sales actually follow up on the funnel of the market?
It's all follow-up on the funnel of marketing.
You have a big engine to generate leads or interest even, and then the sales follow up on those.
Exactly, yeah, 100%. It's about getting to the know. It's exactly like if we prospect, if we cold call people, we'll build a funnel, we'll build a pipeline, but again, truth of the matter is that such a large portion of those potential customers will say, oh yeah, I'm interested, but you'll probably waste time with them. Another thing that I just thought I want to say is our numbers that you saw, because this is something that I heard a few times here, half of our CSP numbers come from Canada. Because we started our initiatives first in Canada, and only half comes from the US. So my point by saying this is that although the US is growing very quickly, I heard a number of times here that UAE is such a smaller market. But if you have a strategy that includes UAE and the countries around, it's a bigger economy than Canada. And on top of it, Canada is arguably divided in two, with the Francophone part of the country and with the Anglophone part of the country. half of our 10,000 seats, on average, come from Canada only. So this is kind of the dirtiest little secret also in business. And it's the last thing I want to share with you guys because I think it's the most important thing. Every presentation here that I've seen is extremely, extremely intelligent, high class. It's unbelievable the stuff that Microsoft does with their research with IDC. They're able to take the recipe and to really present it in a way that I think very, very few companies would be able to do. You look at that, you look at those presentations, and you're like, wow, okay, they're taking our secret sauce and laying it down for everybody to copy. Okay? But one of the reasons I'm not that stressed is because focus is such an important part of success. I'm sure everybody here knows who Jack Welch is, arguably the greatest manager ever, said that it's harder, to start a $50,000 business than it is to run a $500 million business. So what that means is that when you decide to go all in, and honestly, I think that's probably the number one reason why we were successful with CSP, is that we said we're all in. We're not going to hedge our bet. Not hedging our bet means, okay, let's not protect our business. Let's not, making sure that, this is so profitable. We took some of our best people in our older business, in our more profitable business, and we put them onto our new business. We took some money, some budget out of our older business, and we put them on the new business. We had huge internal people fighting against that. But as a leader, you need to be a cheerleader for the new business. That differentiated leadership. That's how you start a business. That's how you're successful. Focus and going all in. And Jack Welch said it. It's not only me. So that's it. That's my presentation for today.